Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to Sir Faiz and my fellow classmates. My name is Nur Umairah Ros Azmi from Group 2. Today, our group, which consists of me, Nur Umairah, Nur Adila Nordin and Siti Atira Nabila, will present regarding the case study of Apple suppliers' labor practices. I will start with question 1. Apple should be responsible for ethical lapses made by individuals further down its supply chain. This is because Apple hired its employees and their supplier. Therefore, Apple has agreed to take responsibility for their actions that could reflect positively or negatively on the company. Apple has set up its supplier code of conduct along with supplier responsibility standards to avoid any issues, which includes ethical issues occur in producing the supply by their supplier. In Apple's code of conduct, it is already stated that Apple's suppliers are required to provide safe working conditions, treat workers with dignity and respect, act fairly and ethically, and use environmentally responsible practices wherever they make product or perform services for Apple. Apple requires its supplier to operate in accordance with the principle and requirement as applicable in this Apple supplier code of conduct and in full compliance with all applicable law and regulation. This conduct will outline Apple's expectations for supplier conduct regarding labor and human rights, ethics and management practices. Suppliers shall exercise due diligence in relevant material in their supply chain. Apple will assess its suppliers' compliance with this code, and any violations of this code may jeopardize a supplier's business relationship with Apple up to and including termination. In addition, Apple has also set up supplier responsibility standard, which includes standard for the suppliers to follow in order to avoid any ethical lapses from happening. From the sourcing of materials to the recycling of products, Apple works with suppliers to ensure that its requirements are being met. As such, although Apple has provided all the information and requirements for their supplier to follow, Apple should always be responsible to avoid any ethical issues from happening. In summary, although Apple has set up code of conduct and supplier responsible standard, it remains Apple's responsible to always make sure and ensure that each supplier complies with both a code of conduct and supplier responsible standard. Apple should not take things lightly after setting up all the code of conduct and supplier responsible and leave entirely to the supplier to comply with it. It needs to be fully observed, and if there is any violation in the code of conduct, then it will be responsibility of Apple as well to take care of it. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum to Sir Faiz and my fellow classmates. My name is Nur Adila Nordin, and today I will be presenting to you on question 2 of the case study, which states that should Apple continue to work with the suppliers in an effort to change practices, or should they stop working with every supplier, even the conscientious ones, to make sure no bad apples are getting through? As you all know, in today's business climate, customers are becoming more and more aware of where their products are being made and how. Hence, as a group, we have agreed that yes, Apple should stop working with every supplier if they are engaged with unethical practices. Apple should refuse to work with them, thereby this would impact their business in a big way, which once that takes place, the supplier would receive less earnings and would consider to take extra ethical practices due to the concern of losing business opportunities with Apple. As for an example, in 2011, Pegatron, a third tire supplier for Apple in Shanghai, exploded, which injured 61 workers and leaving 23 workers being hospitalized. Apple blamed the explosion on a build-up of dust fueled by aluminium particles from the polishing process. Another example is where Apple supplier Foxconn, which was doing iPad 2 production during that time, exploded, leaving and killing 3 workers. This explosion was much much of a bigger deal than Pegatron. Thank you. That is all from me. Question 3 states that, do you think consumers should be expected to take into account the ethical track record of companies when making purchases? As a group, we have agreed that yes, consumers should be able to take into account the ethical track record of companies when making purchases. As a customer, we have seen a lot of green campaigns that have been done by government agencies and companies to raise awareness on pollution. In applying United Nations 12 goals, has a direct impact from this. Customers are becoming more conscious towards sustainability, and it's influencing customers' decision to buy products that are using recycled materials. As an example, Apple has come out with the iPhone 11 12, which is the first smartphone with 100% recycled rare earth elements in all magnets, and Apple stores, office, and data centers are powered by 100% renewable electricities. Definitely, consumers should take into account the ethics adopted by companies, just as companies are responsible for fulfilling their social responsibilities. Individuals should contribute to the society by refusing to buy goods from such companies. Once that happens, the companies will automatically start adopting ethical practices, which will in turn benefit the consumers and the society as a whole. Thank you. That is all from me.
As for question number 4, other brands that rely on ethically questionable business practice is Nestle company. The main ethical issues concerning Nestle company was endorsing infant formula with ambiguous and unsafe strategies, using suppliers that violate human rights, and promoting harmful food. Many believe that Nestle's strategies for promoting its infant formula was misleading and harmful, that violates both international symbols of marketing of breast milk substitute and WHO called amendable the marketing of breast milk substitute. Nestle's marketing campaign encouraged mothers across the world for bottle breastfeeding instead of breastfeeding. They used free sample to pursue this mission. As a result, Nestle boycott was first launched in 1980s. As of 2013, the Nestle boycott is coordinated by the International Nestle Boycott Committee. The company practices are monitored by the International Baby Food Action Network (IBFAN). Alongside the boycott, campaigners work for implementation of the code and resolution in the legislation, and claim that 60 countries have now introduced laws implementing most of all of the provision. Other unethical issues may include during 2001, where Nestle faced huge criticism for purchasing cocoa from Ivory Coast and Ghana suppliers, which may have been produced using child slave. Unfortunately, after analyzing Nestle's Corporation Act, clearly ethics have no place in the company's long-term strategy. This fact has greatly influenced company's reputation and has ruined its position in food industries around the world, which shows that consumers are turned off by their track record. After the widespread of these reports, Nestle company faced a huge criticism from health and labor organizations around the world to put a stop to this anti-humanities act. As a result, the company did not have any choice except to express its concern over the use of child labor in cocoa farm. In conclusion, for any product or brands that existed in the world would have been turned off by their track record if there are any unethical business practices occur in producing the product. This is because the unethical practices make the customer to be aware of purchasing the product, which will later affect the business reputation. Organizations can lose their credibility, productivity can be declined, or the behavior can result in significant fines or financial loss for the company.
I'm going to answer the question number 5, which is, would knowing that a product was produced under ethically questionable condition affect your decision to purchase it? So I think it's yes, because a positive choices that we make, we can start to have a big impact on the world around us. So for the first point is a good environment, which is by moving to a renewable energy supplier, we will help fight the global warming, and also we can support reduce the number of harmful pesticides product, which is by consumption of agricultural products. For example, a Starbucks, which is a well-known coffee shop, they has managed to do this enforcing measure by using bean to cup approach. They also using their recycled coffee ground to making their coffee tables. Okay, second point is a good for our society, which is we can support to build the kind of community humans by buying business that taking a society's commitment seriously. So we can shopping for goods that have fair tax certificate or fair tax label. So for example, Nestle, a multinational company for foods and also drinks from Switzerland, which is they are together with business fights poverty in explore technology blockchain to promote humans' rights. So in Malaysia, the Nestle company in Malaysia has the technology in improving access to dispute these processes in our palm oil supply chain. So for the last point is for a good for animal welfare, which is so the last point is good for animal welfare. We by consuming ethically can help improve condition for animals in number ways. So products overseas, especially a cosmetic company, they are still tested on animal their products. So by we refuse to buying this product, we can be sure that there's no animal harm in the product of your cosmetic using a daily life. So as for example, we know that Maybelline is the most well-known products or brand around the world. They are still using an animal for the product tested. So we are given the option to change or choose another brand to make sure that there are no animal going to be harm, and also is a good for animal welfare. So now our last question 6, which is, if I were part of a third regulating body, how would I deal with ethically questionable business practices of multinational corporation like Apple company? Would I feel obligated to do something, or I think the solution rests with the companies themselves? So the best solution is by the company themselves. For examples, we take a look at back our case study, which is Apple company has the best social and sustainability expectation, liability and ethical behavior. Supplier of Apple company must ensure a safe working conditions, also dignity and value staff, take a fair and ethical action, and also use policies that are environmental friendly. So for the first point is labor and human rights. So Apple company has believed that all labor in our supply chains deserve to a fair and ethical workplace. So the workers must be treated with the highest good manners, human rights standards, and also must be respected in Apple suppliers. Second point is the prevention of involuntary labor and human trafficking. Suppliers should not use any slave, compelled, bonded, or trafficked individual, but involuntary labor should include the travel, shelter, recruiting, relocation, reception, or employment of individual by way of intimidations, force, coercion, extortion, fraud, and payment to any person having possession of another person for the purpose of slavery. And the last point is the prevention of underage labor, which is a supplier for company Apples. They shall hire only a staff who at least 15 years old and above, whichever is the maximum applicable legal age of employment or age compulsory completions. So the providers can provide for legal training in places work in accordance with the Article 6 of Convention of International Labour Organization with minimum age number 138, or for like work in accordance with Article 7 of the Convention of International Labour Organization of mini age number 138.